Hey guys, it's Nate with Zbroz Racing, and today we're going to go in depth and talk about the differences between a Stage 1 spring kit, Stage 2 internal kit, and then our Stage 3, which is a combination of the springs and the internal kit installed in your shocks. We get that question a lot because it can be a little bit confusing, so today we're going to dive into it and just break down the differences and talk about exactly what you're going to get in certain kits. I've grabbed a kit off of our shelf. This happens to be the spring kit we're going to talk about here right now and show some parts out of. It's a Polaris RZR XP1000. It's a two-seater, 17 through 19 model year. And that's really the most important thing. And when you're ordering online or you're talking to your dealer, they need to order the Stage 1 spring kit specific to your machine. A Dynamics versus the regular XP1000 that comes with Walker Evans shocks is going to be a different kit specific to the Dynamics shock. Whether you have a Turbo S, a Polaris General, it's all specific to model year and make, and every kit's a little bit different. So what we're going to talk about here is the 17 to 19 kit as an example. So Stage 1, again, is springs only. And depending on the kit you get, you're going to get certain things like new tender springs, new main springs. You may have a divider that's needed that's provided. So on this kit, it actually comes with a spring divider that's pre-built and cut specific for the tender spring that's supplied on the front. You may also have crossover nuts. Some machines already have crossover nuts on the shock. Some of the Fox models already come with crossover nuts on it. Other Fox shocks or Walker Evans shocks don't come from the factory from Polaris with a crossover nut. So a crossover nut might be part of your kit. Sometimes retainers are included. So the spring kit or Stage 1 is really everything that you need to take your stock shocks, whether it be Walker Evans or Fox, and how they come from the factory, and get a really big ride quality improvement, but more than anything, really to tune to the type of accessories that you have on your vehicle. Everybody out there buys a car stock. Sometimes they buy it with a few accessories from Polaris, Arctic Cat, Yamaha, Can-Am. But everybody, after they start riding the car and using the car, they're going to put a spare tire on. They're going to put some kind of a box in the back, or they're going to start carrying 100 pounds of tools, or you're carrying 4 individuals that are 250 pounds versus somebody that's riding with 2 passengers and their back seats are empty, or you got your dogs back there. My brother's got a dog that's like 250 pounds, right? So we have to tune the spring kit specific to the type of weight that you're running. And when they come from the factory, they're simply just not calibrated or tuned for that extra weight of accessories. Now, I've heard it a million times, well, I've put preload in my car and my car is sitting pretty nice and high now. Well, how does it ride? Is it actually crossing over? If in this case it happens to be a Walker Evans set of shocks that come on a stock XP1000, it doesn't even have crossover adjustment. So you don't have the ability to move that crossover nut inside of your tender spring and adjust for bottoming resistance. Yeah, preload is available on just about any shock out there. But if you don't have the right combination of tender spring and mainspring, it doesn't matter how much preload you put in it, they're going to continue to sag and settle. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, the accessory weight that we talked about. You have a spare tire, you have a box, you're carrying extra fuel, all those kind of things. But also the factory springs in general are a lower quality spring. And so the spring takes sagging or setting over time, and it continues to happen. So while it comes off the showroom and it has 15 inches of ground clearance, after your first ride, now you're down to 14 and a half, 500 miles down the road, you've lost a full inch and a half of ride height. Well, what we do in the Stage 1 spring kit is we provide a spring that's calibrated for the extra accessories. It's very tunable because you not only have preload adjustment, but you have crossover adjustment. But the spring quality is really what makes the difference. Besides giving you the correct rate, the quality of spring allows for this kit, once it's installed and once it's taken an initial set of a couple hundred miles of riding, it will never change rate, and you should never lose that ride height that you lose with a stock spring kit. So whether it's a General, a Turbo S Velocity, Turbo S with Dynamics, we have a spring kit for it. And that's our Stage 1. And really, bang for the buck, you know, mile after mile, if you've got a fairly new car that you don't have a whole bunch of miles on, a spring kit is the way to go. It's the best money spent, best ride quality feel improvement for just about any machine. Now, when you get into our stage 2, I pulled a similar stage 2 internal kit here to the stage 1. Now, the internal kit gets into a car situation that maybe it has 1,500, 2,000, 3,500 miles. You need to service your shocks. So you're going to go and spend $400 to have somebody take your shock apart, put new oil in, put new seals in, and put it back together. But then you're just stuck with the factory tuning of that piston and that valving spec. What our stage 2 kit does is it gives you all of the internal parts and the oil for your shock. So again, this happens to be for a Walker Evans XP1000, and this kit is quite extensive because not only does it include the oil and our seal kit, but it also includes the valving, and we replace the piston in this shock. So it's actually a complete package. It's not just revalving your stock piston. We do that on a lot of the kits, but on this kit, all of your internals are replaced with exit shock pistons. So there's a real balance and extra bang for your buck when you buy it for the Walker Evans shock on the XP1000, because you get a much better piston design, one that we've ran for almost 20 years between snowmobiles and side-by-sides, and we've learned a lot about fluid flow, and so you get that technology in the internal kit. Now, for example, this car that we have over here, this happens to be a Turbo S with Velocity shocks, and it ran for about 3,500 miles on a spring kit. It was brand new, it ran for 3,500 miles, and then we took it apart and we put the internal kit on after. So if you have a car that's newer and you are just looking for that bang for your buck, the budget, buy the stage 1 spring kit and run 2,000, 2,500 miles, 3,000 miles on your car till you start seeing the shock leak, you start really feeling fade throughout the day as the shock heats up. That's a sure sign that your oil is just starting to get dirty, it's been hot too many times. Oil breaks down in a shock just like it does in a motor. You know that you're supposed to service your motor regularly. Well, a shock needs to be serviced regularly too. So about every 2,000 miles. It really depends on what type of driving you're doing. If you're doing a lot of off-road with, or a ton of street. The street miles, obviously, you're going to get way more miles between service than off-road miles. So if you have a car that has thousands of miles, consider doing the stage 3, which is both kits combined. So stage 1 is spring kit. Stage 2 is internal. So if you already had the spring kit, you can just buy the internal parts, and we can put the internals in and freshen up the shock and double check your spring kit settings, leave them exactly where you ask us, or we can make changes as requested. Or if you're just starting with a car that happens to have thousands of miles, buy the stage 3. That has the internal parts and the spring kit as a whole package. Now, the one thing that I want to mention on stage 2 internal kits and stage 3, which is the combination of them, is the shocks need to be sent to us directly for us to do that work, or we have certified service centers. You can find those on our website. Find a shop that is certified that's closer to you, that'll save you some shipping time and money versus sending them back to us. We only have a solid handful or dozen of certified shops right now. We're working on certifying more shops. So if you have a local dealer that's selling stage 1 spring kits, let's talk to them and let's get them certified. The reason we do that is we want these to be installed correctly. There's a ton of great shops out there that have maybe been working on motorcycles for years and years and haven't really dove into the UTV market. Those type of shops can definitely be trained up to work on the side-by-side shocks and get them tuned correctly, but we have a certified list, and that's who you need to go to have this internal work done. So keep that in mind, and always remember you can reach out to us online at zbrozracing.com. Give us a call. We've got guys waiting to answer questions for you, and we'll get you the parts as quick as you can. On a last note, with Zbroz Racing being part of the Wheel Pros family, we have 9 warehouses now, between 7 in the United States and 2 in Canada, that are stocking our stage 1 spring kits. The advantage for shops and you is you now have access to these spring kits in 1 to 2 days versus everything shipping out of Utah here in our factory. So keep that in mind as you're comparing us to others, and if you have questions, please reach out.